A lot of folks ask me, how do you find places to eat? How do you always know where to go? So today, I want to share and show how I find the best places to eat. And anytime like a live demo is applicable, I'm gonna do that. So let's kick off with the 7 ways I find the best places to eat wherever I go. The first thing I want to talk about, and the number one way I find the best places to eat, in my opinion, is to go to your expert friend. So we all have that friend that if you're going to Tokyo, you hit them up and they give you a spreadsheet of all the best places to go in Tokyo. It's broken down by sushi, by ramen, by Japanese curry. So always go to that friend. So I want to show you a live demo of this. I am that crazy friend. I also have some of those friends, but I am this person who lives and loves spreadsheets. So let's hop into this. So in this case, I'm looking at my Tokyo. In this case, it says Tokyo sushi, but it's kind of everything. So I've got genre in column A. So I've got pizza places I want to go to. I've got ramen. I've got a lot of ramen there. So this is kind of an example of what that might look like. Definitely ask that friend. They do want to help you. That's the other thing to mention. People aren't just coveting this and like building this and saying like, I'm only going to sell this for money. I don't want to share it. People do this for themselves, but they also, because they did the work, love sharing this. They want to make sure you eat at the best places. They want to be like altruistic. They also might want that thank you, and you be like, oh my God, that like conveyor belt sushi place was my favorite of the trip, and they want that. So as long as you get to eat at the best restaurants, ask your friends, they will share, give them that thank you. But this is, in my opinion, the number one method or way you should start looking for food. All right, number 2 would be go to your known blogs or writers. So this is similar to like going to that expert friend, but this is going to that expert stranger who you don't actually know. So before I get into this, it's also important to know whether with your expert friend, whether with a blog, whether it's any of the other options or methods I talk about, it's really important to recognize that your taste, my taste, we are all going to have different tastes. So take everything with a grain of salt. When looking at your expert friend, when looking at these blogs, the best thing to do is either compile a list of places that come up a bunch. So if 7 people that you think you trust like the same thing, that's probably a good place to start. Another thing is when you find a blog and you go to one place and you love it, then you go to another place and you love it. You build a rapport, you build compatibility, you build trust with that writer or that blog. So that's the caveat I want to share. And once you find that blog, you'll find, maybe that writer or that blog is just awesome. So for me, I'm a big fan of Eater. I'm going to show you how I'd go about this. We're going to use Buenos Aires for this example because I actually started doing Sao Paulo last night for fun, but Buenos Aires is somewhere we want to go as soon as Argentina's open up. So let's do that. So I would do Eater, Buenos Aires, and boom. So Eater does kind of 2 major things for major cities. They're going to have their Eater 38. That's like their, creme de la creme that hopefully is updated. They do a lot better and more current in America, but 2020 is not terrible. The other thing they do, so if we're looking at like Miami or something, and I'll actually show that, they'll have their 38 best and their hottest new restaurants. So their 38 best is like the tried and true. These are the 38 best. Then they also do like a monthly or quarterly, like these are the hottest new places to check out. I'm going to digress a second. I strongly prefer their Eater 38. I've had a lot of misses on their hottest restaurants. But anyways, back to Eater Buenos Aires. So I will look at this. And my internet is so fast. And the awesome thing they do, besides giving those, is they give a map. So this video is not about finding where to stay, but by building these maps, and I'll get into Google Maps in a second, by setting pins and building this maps on where you want to eat and drink, it really narrows down and helps you pick the best place to stay. Unless, you're someone that likes to find like the best hotel or something and doesn't mind Ubering, power to you, that's totally fine. For me, I love walking, and if I can be closer to, a hub of the best restaurants or bars, I love that. So again, digressing. But here you can kind of zoom into these. This is one way to do it. And I don't know Buenos Aires that well. I'll go here. And then when you scroll down, the prices per person, I really like those. It just gives you an idea of not only what those mean, but it varies from country to country. So $1 sign's less than $6, $2 sign is 6 to 14, and so on. And then what I do is I'll read the little blurb here. I'll see where it is. So it is clear that this one is kind of in the middle of nowhere. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pin it, but it's going to be less helpful in helping you find where to stay. And then boom, you start seeing different places that are more central. If you don't want to just go in order, you can just click here and you'll start to see like places in the heart of things. And yeah, this is how I would use a blog to do this. Otherwise, you could just do something like best restaurants, Buenos Aires, and you'll get other blogs. So Eater for me pops up first. Condé Nast Traveler, I do like them. World's 50 Best is going to show you the high-end bougie stuff. Culture Trip's hit or miss. Sometimes it's current, sometimes it's like 5 years old. I do like Time Out. Might as well just click on that. I like Time Out. I like Condé Nast Traveler. I'm blanking on other ones I like. But what you can also do here is, I think I recognized Latina. So another thing you can do if you're crazy like me, going back to the spreadsheet, you can start listing places you like, and as you see more and more blogs mention them, or let's say, you know, your friend with a spreadsheet recommended this place, then 3 other blogs did. Even though you haven't eaten there, a lot of people have referenced it. That doesn't mean it's going to be good, but it improves the likelihood. So that's how I would do this piece. To give you an example of this, here is where I have listed some of those blogs I like. These are relevant for Tokyo, so I'll just like kind of have like a list of those. You could use bookmarks too, just I'm a spreadsheet guy. And then to give you another idea, here's planning for a trip to New Orleans, and here's where I started listing bars and restaurants, and then to the right I'll have the number of times other blogs mentioned those. I've bolded the ones I really want to go to. So this is a lot. I'm clearly crazy and over the top here, but this is how I kind of leverage, you know, the expert friend and blogs, and I think it's really helpful. All right, so number 3. So this is something I've learned more recently, but I really like it because I tend to find places that I don't find other ways. So this is using Google Maps, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do this. I've got Buenos Aires queued up so I don't have to go through all that. But basically what you can do is kind of scroll into places, and you'll start to see, okay, McDonald's, not a great thing, but let's see, like this La Panera Rosa. Why is it giving me directions? And so here it'll start recommending places with usually thousands of reviews, or if a city doesn't have places with thousands of reviews, hundreds of reviews. So Google will surface places with a ton of reviews. So it's 4 stars, which to me that's fine. It's seldomly going to show anything under 4, but it's probably also not going to show stuff like over 4.5 because it's really hard to do. So just kind of like perusing around. So I'm vaguely familiar with the Palermo neighborhood. So here we see a bunch of bars and restaurants. So I would check praline cakes. I will learn how to click things better. Okay, so almost 1,000 reviews, this Uptown bar. Okay, so over 4,500 reviews, 4.3. This looks pretty cool. I guess you can also hover without committing the click. And then what you can do, which I highly suggest, I love building these maps. So clearly I have a ton, and I'll show you some more. I think I've got one for Argentina. I do have one for Argentina, but if you didn't have these, I'll show you how to build a new list. And I could do something like Buenos Aires. I love emojis, so I could do something like this. It also makes it easier to find. And you can start building these lists. And why I like these so much is not only do you have a repository of this, you can also see it graphically. So you can see what it looks like. This is another way you can use that Eater map and start building your own pins around here so you can kind of decide where to go. This is also really helpful for when you want to build like a daily itinerary, or if a friend is visiting, you could say, okay, on day 1, we'll do this like kind of Palermo neighborhood tour. Okay, what bars and restaurants are there? There's 2 bars I want to go to. There's a pastry place I want to start and get coffee. There's a place I want to get dinner. So it's really good for just remembering where you want to go, figuring out where you want to stay, and building itineraries, which is super fun. And then to give you an idea of how crazy these can get, so here's Tokyo, one that I've built, and you can just see Tokyo's crazy. It's huge. There's a lot of pins going on here. And then to give you an idea of kind of, I kind of showed it already, alluded that, but these are all the different places I've got. So currently I'm in San Miguel. I was looking at like Sao Paulo yesterday. My friend is in Bangkok, and he just ate at a place that does like fake In-N-Out burgers. So anytime I see something on Instagram or a friend mentions something or TikTok, whatever, I use these, and it's just a place I can save stuff. And then for places that might not be, you know, a city or country specific, you can build these like wanna-gos, and they can be global. So here it is. Here's the place I want to go in Thailand. This bun and meat cheese place that does like fake In-N-Out burgers. Just to go back to like how you can use this, just like find a neighborhood and, you know, the oldest resto bar, Belgrano. 4,800 reviews, 4.3 stars. And then huge fan of Google Maps, huge fan of this kind of just scrolling around to find places, saving them, building your maps. Boom, that's number 3. Okay, sometimes you won't have a friend that went to the specific city you're looking for. Sometimes there just won't be a lot of quality blogs or writers you recognize. And sometimes even doing the Google Maps thing, it won't yield that much. So in that case, the 4th thing I like to do is Google in the target city's language. So like in Buenos Aires, instead of doing best restaurants in Buenos Aires, we'd do something like mejores restaurantes en Buenos Aires or donde comer en Buenos Aires. And what that will do is unlock a bunch of other blogs and writers and information from folks that are either in Argentina or at least Spanish speaking. So I'll show you what that would look like. And if you didn't know how to do that in English, let's use Google Translate. I'm gonna keep it Spanish, but doing something like where to eat in Buenos Aires. So donde comer en Buenos Aires or best restaurants in Buenos Aires. So yeah, Spanish is pretty straightforward, and you can just copy and paste these, but I also want to show you that Google will, even if you're English speaking and so is your Chrome instance or whatever, if you just start writing this, things will just pop up. So donde comer en Buenos Aires. And then what we can do is say, okay, TripAdvisors are always going to come up. Use that at your own peril. I have found things using TripAdvisor. I don't love it. I think it's super sponsored and kind of different. But all right, interesting that it's also 38 like Eater. The Fork, I think I've heard of that. That's kind of like a Yelp or like a booking thing in Latin America. And this has 3. So you might be saying, okay, great, I can't read any of this, and that's totally fine. We can just translate the whole page here. Google's gonna translate the best it can, but you're still gonna be able to find places, and a good blog's gonna have photos. And again, I think I recognize this Alo's place. So this is how we would Google in the target language. If you're going to like an Arab speaking place or Russia with Cyrillic alphabet or China, Japan, you could do this. It's a little trickier, but yeah, I mean, you could definitely try. Okay, number 5. So we've looked at 4 so far. Hopefully you've learned some tip or trick and this is helping. Number 5 is probably one of my favorites, and it's asking your bartender or server what their favorite restaurants are, assuming you like the place you're if you are having a terrible lunch or drinks are overpriced and you hate it, don't do this there. But if you're having like an awesome brunch or you're at just like a really cool bar with great drinks and a cool vibe, one of the best things you can do is ask your server or bartender, you know, what are your favorite restaurants around here or in this city, or what other places are like this? And I'll specifically ask those questions versus what restaurants do you recommend. I don't like asking people what restaurants do you recommend in Mexico City or Buenos Aires or Tokyo, because that question makes them think of, oh, what's popular is basically what that is. And what's popular might not always be the best. So I like to know a restaurant waiter or bartender. I like to know what their favorite spots are, because in the service industry, if you're working at like one of these cooler places, you're probably working there because A, you love the concept behind the place, or B, you love the food or drinks. So, you know, you want to validate their tastes and opinions, or when you say something like, I really like this place, do you know any other brunch spots like this or any other cocktail bars like this? You're validating their place of work, which you're basically validating them and their tastes too. If you don't speak the language, again, this is somewhere where you could use Google Translate. A lot of places, in Mexico at least, people, even when you ask in Spanish, they'll end up telling you in English. And people want to share this stuff. Like, you're validating, like, hey, like, I think you have awesome taste. This restaurant or bar is awesome. Like, what other places do you like? I've had people like pull out paper and write things down. Actually, multiple times people will do that. Or they'll say, are you looking for like food like this? Do you want higher end, lower end? Do you want, for bars, do you want cocktails? Do you want craft beer? And we've found so many awesome places by doing that. So I don't know why I made this one number 5, maybe because like I only recently started doing it, and this one's probably obvious. The one caveat or takeaway I'd say, don't ask where they'd recommend, ask what their favorite restaurants are, ask for similar places to where you're at, and you will find some awesome gems. Number 6, and this one is gonna be the most obvious, but for those type A people who live in spreadsheets, who plan their day out by the meals they're gonna eat. I'm talking about myself, and I know there's other people like me out there. This is for you, this is for us. Explore and stumble in. If a place just looks awesome, if you walk by a bar and you're on your way home and it's just super loud and lively, pop in. If you are walking around for lunch and it's rush hour or that lunch hour and you see a stand or a restaurant with a line out the door or something, check it out. Again, this isn't foolproof, and just because there are people there, that bar could have terrible drinks or that restaurant could be terrible, but I always employ this rule either to eat somewhere or to abstain from eating there. If I read about a place and I go there and it's like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, like the lunch rush, and there is not a single soul in there, I might skip it because why is there no one in there? And then by the same token, if I walk by somewhere and it smells delicious, and then I see the food and it looks awesome, and then it's packed and people are having a good time, but I've never heard of it, and maybe it only has 3 reviews on Google, you got to roll the dice and check it out. And this is more a reminder for folks or people like me that are really type A that like to plan. You will find gems you would otherwise not have by being spontaneous and deviating. So super obvious, but wanted to include that. And my last one, number 7, and this is assuming you're staying at an Airbnb or a hotel or something. Ask your Airbnb host, ask the hotel concierge, and where their favorite restaurants are. Not where they recommend, because that can get weird. Ask what their favorite restaurants are. And in a perfect world, like where we're staying at our Airbnb now, they'll give you a list. And in a really perfect world, they'll parse it out by like brunch, lunch, dinner, etc. Or they'll say, the best high-end Mexican food, the best place for tacos, the best place for a Mexican breakfast. You won't always get that, but in a perfect world, you will. And the next thing is, I usually ask for this, and we're staying places for a month, so we have time to wait. But I asked about a week in, and what was great about the list was there's already 2 places on that list that we'd eaten. So it gives you some of that rapport or credibility or compatibility. And the thing you can do, whether it's your Airbnb host, your concierge, a blog, or your best friend, whatever, as you go to a place, if you like it, go to another one. If you go to it and you hate it, if you're patient, you can try another one. And if it's still not good, maybe you and this person don't jive, or maybe they prefer ambiance to food, stuff like that. But when things do work, figure it out. Or maybe you'll learn, wow, their brunch recommendations are awesome, but I really don't like the bars they recommended. Or you read a blog and you really like the lunch spots, but you think the dinner places are a little stuffy or pretentious. Just kind of acclimate like you would when you meet a new friend or when you watch a movie. Like, you got to figure out how you vibe or jive with someone, and then as you make friends or find blogs or follow writers or find people that you have that compatibility with, that can be your go-to. So I know I talked a ton. This video is longer than I expected, and I know I shared 7 things with you. A lot of them were probably obvious. I really hope you learned at least one tip or trick or new way you'll employ to find new restaurants. And again, maybe you've been living in a city for a year or 2 during COVID and you haven't explored. I think all these ways are definitely a way to explore where you live or when you move to a new city, but also definitely when you're on vacation. Please let me know in the comments how you like to find the best restaurants when you're traveling or when you move to a new city. Let me know what I missed. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe so I know to make more videos like this. Until next time, thanks so much for hanging out with me.